You've already heard that before.
Planning Commission meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Mayor Safarian? Here. Mr. Olive? Mr. Breezlar?
Here.
Mr. Orbitz?
Here.
Chairman Winkowski?
Here, thank you. I'm going to skip through the first two and go to the approval of the December 21st, 2021 and January 18th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, the minutes for the meetings of December 21st, 2021 and January 18th, 2022 are hereby approved. First matter before us today is a review of amendments in amending Part 11 of the Planning and Zoning Code by establishing a new chapter 1145 of the Oregon Municipal Code titled Advanced Manufacturing District. If I can have a motion to waive reading of that into the record, we can adopt it into the record.
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, we've waived the reading into the record of the amendments and will place into the record the proposed ordinance as delivered to all of us and present as Exhibit A and presented to us today. Mr. Gilmore, if you would then introduce the topic.
Well, this is a new zoning classification for some industrial uses and to upgrade the appearance of them. But I'm going to let Mike Beasley go ahead and run us through this to give us an idea what it is.
Mr. Beasley?
Mr. Chair and members, thank you. Just as a note, what we're doing today doesn't change the zoning on any land in Oregon. Just make it clear because we've had that question. This is simply a step today to create another category of land for manufacturing use called advanced manufacturing that's available in the palette of options for us. And in looking around the region and anywhere from Columbus to Detroit area, Indianapolis, looking at what we think that would be beneficial to Oregon, we realized that we didn't have a zoning category that we felt met our needs appropriately. The heaviest of industries have been really good for Oregon, our refineries, our power plants, our methanol plants, but we really think we've had our share of those in general. We're hosting our share of those for the market. We're not really out looking to attract more of those. But for many of those categories, you can put many of those uses in almost any of the industrial zonings we have or manufacturing we have, as long as they're not processing outside. And so we wanted to create a new category of zoning modeled after what's gone on in some other communities that we're calling advanced manufacturing. We think it will allow us to attract and create a space that allows industry to help maybe be a nice buffer use between some of our heaviest industries and between our refineries and power plants and neighborhoods and other uses. And that's what we want to look for. So again, this won't change the zoning any place. It creates a new option that's available. Long-term, if this is created, the step today would be to have the Plan Commission act and have it referred to council. Long-term, it would be the expectation that the city might take the parcels and seek to have the parcels that are currently held by the Economic Development Foundation or by the city that are industrially zoned areas and have those converted to this category in general. That's the general objective, though obviously that's a subsequent step that has to go through its own process. But the first step we have to do is to create the category because right now in many of those industrial or even CI spaces, somebody wants to put in we love the methanol plant, but somebody want to put another one, we're maybe we've had enough. So here's the look that we're going for. And I looked around a lot of places, but something actually relatively close by is what I found really the most interesting. If you look, just go over, there's things that look like this in other communities. Well, there's some nice things out in Arrowhead area. But if you just go out to the Overland Industrial Park at the old Jeep site, gives you a good example of what's created. And so let me kind of summarize the differences in this advanced manufacturing section. And there's about 7 categories. Number 1 is use. It specifically prohibits things like power plants, outdoor processing, steel mills, things that are a traditional heavy industry, and a chemical plant, things like that. They're specifically prohibited in this space. So that's the kind of the categories of use one, but most of it's the use. It's the setbacks, the fencing, the landscaping, the parking, the lighting. And when I talk about the buildings itself, we want to break up the mass in a couple of ways. So if you look at a building like this, it's really just a box. But when you break up the mass vertically and horizontally, you screen your rooftop equipment with parapets. These are things that we don't require in our industrial spaces now. All right. And so if you look at the way that parking is set up, the way the setbacks are done, and this isn't done through zoning, this is actually done with the rules within this particular subdivision in this jurisdiction. You can have a large building that can be an attractive neighbor. You break up the mass with horizontal lines, vertical spacing, variation of the roof line, and those characteristics that make a more attractive space, something that is use of windows, clear entrances. There's just 2 buildings at the site, each of which would meet our zone needs, with needs of this step. So again, the way the lighting is directed down, the way it those are all steps we would use to make it a better neighbor. In each case, we're looking, at some point, the city is going to look to spaces that are in our industrial areas, especially along, perhaps Wynn and along Corduroy, Lalendorf, where we have some industrial land. We're going to look to, if this is created, to go out and take that step. We did use we worked on it a lot ourselves. We used a consulting firm that kind of specialized in this area that gave us advice on this. As we looked at it, we felt good about it as we go. So this, again, this step today simply creates the zoning category that makes available. Nothing is now, so we'll have a zoning category called advanced manufacturing, and we have nothing that's zoned advanced manufacturing now. But our goal would be to have this be in our palette, have this something that's available to us in the future. And at some point, the city might look to have some of our existing industrial areas or that are industrial on a long-term plan change to that. Again, though, any other like any other zoning rule, any resident can seek to have theirs changed. So we're talking about a property across from the refinery earlier today. Someone could choose to seek that zone change, or they wouldn't have to. But we wanted to ask today to move forward on it. We're excited about it. We think that it's the sort of thing that can actually having these sorts of buildings between our neighborhoods and the refineries or a power plant, I think is actually a plus. It creates a buffer category that is good for us, and we can fit a lot of jobs in that category as well. There's a lot of interest right now in development in Ohio, and Ohio has in Oregon and specifically has the things that the market wants. We have energy in both gas and electric in good volume. We have water, we have sewer capacity, we have rail in some areas. And we think that this is an opportunity for us to attract. I think it'll help make us more attractive, and it'll allow us to attract the kind of thing that we're interested in, but not necessarily being forced to accept things we're less interested in, or that we're sated with. Let's just put it that way. So that's what we seek today. It is just it's another it's called advanced manufacturing, another zoning category that allows us to more successfully regulate facades, fencing, lighting, setbacks, parking, plantings, landscaping, and use in ways that we don't and aren't able to now. Actually, in many of our CI spaces, we can't do much about those things. And we have chosen not to historically. Our zoning code hasn't changed in that area in decades, and we think we need an upgrade. Jim, if I missed something here, did I sleep through something?
No, I think you caught it all.
Well, it certainly, Mr. Beasley, it certainly seems like, and what comes to mind as you drive down Wynn Road, the Autoneum facility would be more aesthetic looking if we required the parking to look nicer, the building to look, I don't want to say the building looks beautiful, but the surrounding area would, under this, become more aesthetically pleasing for anyone that drives past that area. So if you've built or own property in Eagles Landing, your drive past that area would obviously become more aesthetically pleasing as you drive out there.
Yeah, and those are fine buildings, that whole little neighborhood
Yeah.
of buildings there. By just with a few elements that don't add a lot of cost, they add a lot of value to the community. And that's what we like. It makes it more attractive and creates a space. Now, this isn't going to look back in time, but the next building that's built, we'd like to have it built looking like this a little bit more. Obviously, and this is an outstanding building, the Dana building. You've got a major corporate partner that really invested in this. They won't all look like an automotive showroom, all right? When you look at that entrance, it does. But we can, again, break up the horizontal and vertical mass, hide a screen with parapets, change, some variation in the roof line. But that landscaping and parking really matter. You can do a lot with those things, to make it, the fencing, all those things will be an element of this zoning thing. And we're going to have an architectural review commission. Well, that body will have a chance to look and sign off on it so that it can blend with adjacent uses. So we feel good about it. This is a tool that is not available to Oregon today.
Yes.
And it's a tool that we think we need looking long. Again, the action today won't create doesn't create any land zone. It just creates a space that it's an option that's available to us moving forward. And when we talk to with our own lands, we're going to look to see if we can change some of the lands the foundation has or the city has to this category. And we'll bring a group of them in a step after we get it created. We'll talk about it. We'll have a hearing here and we'll talk about.
And that's where I have two questions.
Sure.
One for you and one for Mayor Safarian, since he knows the procedure better than anyone here. First one would be, this will obviously not change any of the current zoning on any parcel today or when council adopts this, if a council adopts this. And it will be incumbent upon the owner of the parcel to make an application, which would then serve a notice to the city or the residents. And there would be hearings both at planning commission and at city council before any zoning is changed to this new category.
Or any category.
Or any category.
That's correct.
Or any category.
That's correct.
That may not be a question, that more may be a statement, more for the residents who are listening. The second one I have, Mayor, maybe you can explain today, when we vote today, if we have approval or disapproval, where this goes from here.
If this passes today, it would go to council within 30 to 45 days. And it's easy to figure when our council meetings are, what date that would be. But then if it were to fail, it would take 6 votes of council to overturn it. I don't anticipate it failing. And one thing, Mr. Beasley covered almost all the details, but right now, if we had a business that chose to move here with a building exactly like he posted up there earlier, they could come in, they would have to come in under M1 zoning. And if something would happen to that business, because they would be under M1, anybody who would purchase that property thereafter could do anything M1 is permitted to do. So it wouldn't they might not hold the same standard that this other company chose. So we lose that option to say what will happen on that parcel if we had to zone it to the M1 to get it today. This will give us that option that'll guarantee something, a business very much like what originally came in would stay in that
Yeah.
parcel.
The heart of the mayor's point is really what we're trying to do. We are trying to protect Oregon long-term. Right now, we have less say than we would like over the shape of industrial development that goes on once it's zoned industrial. Even CI, there's a
Even
lot
if
of
they
room
came in
CI.
with exactly what we proposed for this, the next owner or the company could change in what they wanted to do and do anything that the M1 would permit.
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen. Since this is in the 15 years I've been on planning and zoning, this is the first time we've had one of these referrals. So if I misstep, please point it out. I
Same
think,
as it's just the same as any other
Right.
thing that comes before. this
so
board.
I will open up for the public. If there is anyone from the public that would like to address this matter, you're more than welcome to approach and say your piece. And knowing who's in the room, Beth, you may be the only one here that may or may not want to speak on this.
I guess I'm still waiting for more information.
Sure.
I mean, I'll just wait to get more information on it. Beth Ackerman, 931 Berry Road, Oregon. I guess I would like to know, is that citywide? Would that be citywide? Or, because originally, when you talked about it, it was like the industrial area like that you have there.
It is, the answer is it's nowhere.
Well,
Right?
oh, okay.
So that's under Ohio law, anyone who acquires an interest in property in any jurisdiction in Ohio can apply to for a zone change.
Mhm.
We can't restrict that. The only place that the city would be interested in this or is interested in it now that we've actually had conversations about are the lands that like here, here we have an option. We have this land, those spaces, this land here. Those are the spaces that we're interested in and have had conversation in. And we would contemplate bringing in a request for a zone change for those parcels at some point in the future. It is the opposite of citywide. It's no place, all right? But any place, just like if somebody wanted to take any parcel anywhere in the city and require it to be the heaviest industry, they could do that. Doesn't mean we'll say yes,
Right.
but anyone can ask, all right?
So just to clarify, it would be if you amended that or expanded that.
It
part
wouldn't
of
be expanding, it would actually be, in
It's
some ways,
all-
it'd be a down zoning from people could put more intense uses in now. It would say, no, you can't be that
Right,
intense here.
okay.
That's our plan.
Sort of like brick, everything having to be
Yeah.
brick or that. sort
Yeah,
of thing.
whatever that look.
So any place across, eventually then it would be any property within the city limits would be able to apply for that once it were.
Correct. The same way they could right now apply to make it be M1 or CI. Right now, people can apply, and if they want to, they could apply for anywhere now. You know, with any of the uses that we have, any of the zoning categories we have, you can apply for it anywhere.
So it's strictly aesthetic though. It wouldn't
It's- no.
pertain to the content.
It's use and aesthetics. Yeah, so it specifically prohibits things like steel mills, power plants, chemical
How do
facilities.
we know the specific language of what it would?
It says it in the
not
code. And so we won't,
Okay.
it'll be, we'll have a hearing before city council. come
It'll
up,
all,
but-
yeah,
but it
that's
says it.
that's why I'm not, I want to hear more information.
I'll have a
about
copy
it.
if you want.
Oh, thank you.
Alright, but so take a look at it and we'll have an opportunity for final amendments then, but you can take a look, right?
And there probably more than likely is a copy of this proposal on the city's website.
There it is,
If
yes.
there's not, there should be.
Yeah, it's on,
It is.
sure, it's been on the plan commission's,
There was, Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman, I know there was a council meeting that referred it to planning commission. There was that, which was a public.
No, I
session.
mean, when I got online to look at, I looked on social media, and I checked the calendar for the city, and there was no mention of this meeting today. I only knew about it because he mentioned it.
Okay.
at the meeting last
This meeting's been scheduled for 10 years. It's every, it's
Every third Tuesday of the
every
month,
third
we're
Tuesday.
here.
Alright.
Um,
This meeting has been at 5 o'clock for 25 years that I know of.
I've
could
been-
check-
I've,
But,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, I'd like to
Mayor.
address it. We tried to find an appropriate time. Of course, for some people, they work till 5 and it's hard to get here. But other people, when they're making presentations, are in business that they're done at 5. We're like a happy medium. We're trying to do the best we can to make it available to the masses. And we've done that with council meetings. You know, they were at 8. Some people thought it was too late to come out, and we made it at 7. It wasn't to try to deny anybody access.
Or
We're
actually,
trying to make it,
or no matter what time we pick, it's more of an unhappy meeting.
and for 4 of us at least, we're coming from our regular jobs. And so 5 o'clock is somewhat inconvenient for us. The problem is when we would prefer to have some representatives from the city here, and we certainly have to have Tina here or a representative who's actually taking part in the minutes and things like that. Well, if we have it at 7 o'clock, she's either got to go home, come back, or do something. Whereas we've inconvenienced ourselves, and we had found that we're never at a shortcoming when it comes to people who care about that specific application being here. Whether it's at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, the people in the immediate surrounding area find a way to get here for that one meeting. And so we've kind of stuck with 5 o'clock. You know, I think the 4 of us, last week we talked about it, we've all been on this board about 10 years, and we've just kind of dealt with it that way. So
it's possible. It's just, it's a little tough sometimes for me to make it from work to come here. It's possible I even went a mile or 2 over the speed limit to get here 5 minutes late.
well, it was really bad when it was 4 o'clock. When I first got on, it was at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we had a hard time getting here at 4 o'clock. And so we did move it to 6, I believe, and no more people showed up anyway. So 5 o'clock seemed to be that middle of the road figure.
So our request then would be action so that it moves forward to Toledo City, to Oregon. We're just talking about Toledo's meetings. Toledo does theirs during the day. The,
Depending on the pay, I would be open to.
You could.
I don't believe there's anyone else here that wishes to speak on this matter. If so, the floor is open for a motion on approval.
I'll make a motion for approval of the proposed zoning change, chapter 1145 for the Oregon Municipal Code.
I think that's it.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Orovitz,
Yes.
Mr. Vrieslar,
Yes.
Mayor Safarian,
Yes.
Chairman Winkowski.
Yes. And that 4-0 goes along with the 7-0 vote I think that council had. So we're moving it now over to you guys for further matters. I did see a March 27th or March 24th.
The last meeting in March.
The last meeting in March would be the
Somewhere, it might have been.
calendar,
March-
fall into that.
It might have been
window.
March 24th. I know I saw it somewhere. But it will probably be March 28th would probably be the hearing date. Well, thank you. The first numbered one on our roll today is SUE 174-22, which is a special use in an R1 low-density residential district for the purpose of having 6 horses and 20 chickens on the property described as parcel number 44-38921. The applicant owner is Kelly Clark. The location is 6450 Corduroy Road. Mr. Gilmore.
This may look familiar to you because we were here and asked for a zoning change from an R1 to an A1 use. It was passed here, then it was on the city council. There was a sense that there was going to be a lot of opposition. The applicant decided that it might be in the best interest of everybody if she came back and asked for a special use, which is more specific on what can be used there. The ask as it's written down now is for 6 horses and 20 chickens. Although I think that may be amended, but that is the current ask. And if it were to be changed, we have to do so in this meeting. It then, let me add to this that the procedure is very similar or the same as a zoning change. So if it's approved here tonight or whatever your action is tonight, it will then go to city council for final decision.
Ms. Clark, I think you're up.
Yes.
Identify, name, address.
I'm Kelly Clark. It's 6450 Corduroy Road, Oregon, Ohio.
Knowing that I last saw you here a couple months ago,
Yes.
and I know what happened at council to a small degree. I have talked to people on both sides.
Yes.
Knowing what you know about a SUE, where do you stand? I guess, what are we going to be voting on today? Because whether it's 6 horses, 4 horses, chickens, all those things, today's kind of, it's the ball is in your court to say, here's what I want, and then we can vote on what we will do.
Okay. I already have a permit to have 3 horses. Yes, I wanted chickens. My main goal was the agricultural, which was not going to go well, like you said. So I spoke to several people and they advised me to ask for whatever horses I wanted and chickens. So they came up with the 6 horses and the 20 chickens is what it came up to. I'm okay with 4 horses. It's not that I wanted more animals in the whole scheme of things. That's not what I wanted. What I don't like is the fact that it's 3 times now I've been asked to, what do I want to say? I've been asked to be swayed another way for some other people's decisions on what I should do with my property, which I don't think is fair. But I'm fine with the 4 horses. I'm not, I guess it's not gonna, does it really matter what I want? I guess it's the thing.
Absolutely, it matters what you want.
So that's all I had to say. I don't have much more to say.
Explain to me, what's the difference of holding an SUE as opposed to a zoning change? Where would we be?
What's the difference between the two?
What's the difference as it affects this land?
Well, if it was a straight zoning change, as we spoke earlier about uses allowed in a particular zone, you would be allowed to do whatever use is allowed by an A1 or agricultural use would then apply to this land. With a special use, it actually is specific on what you're allowed to use the land for. So, for instance, the extreme case would be if you would want pigs on an A property, you could have it. This special use would say, no, all you can have are the horses and the chickens.
Mayor?
Yeah, and I was going to address Kelly Clark's other request was the advantages that agricultural property would grant her in the means of building a barn, which agricultural zone barn has less restrictions than would a R1 or a commercial building. What we checked and found out is you would be granted a building permit by use. So you would still be able to get the agricultural building because your use would be agricultural, and you would apply for it at our inspection department, and Mr. Gilmore did the permit and explained the rules that we then aren't the governing body. And then it goes to soil conservation or Corps of Engineers that run the agricultural building.
No, it would, if,
It goes with you,
If-
but it was by their rules.
if a building is used for agricultural use, it's simply exempt from the building code. So only a zoning permit would be required, okay? So, yeah, and, like any ag building or agricultural building, they're exempt from the building code, and, that's just the way it
And
is.
Kelly, any tax status you have would go with the land use also. And so if you applied for something and you had any problem, we could help you through that.
Okay.
You know, so, and it was, she was very, very nice to deal with, when knew there was a problem, that there could be opposition. And, that, I just want to commend you on working to the best, situation we could come with.
Like you said, I don't want a boatload of animals. That wasn't my goal. I just wanted to be able to put up a barn with agricultural specs or whatever he just explained. And maybe to have one more horse. That was about it. So, and the chicken.
And we understood that, but what, one of the things like we explained with that other zoning we were trying to create is once somebody has a zoning, if you were to sell the property, the zoning goes with the property and someone could then put in whatever they want. And your intents wouldn't,
Mr. Graham was worried about that.
yeah, and it can be legitimate, it can be a legitimate concern for some people. I, for instance, found earlier in my life, I wanted to have horses until I found out what you have to do to take care of a horse. And then I knew I didn't want a horse.
I get up
I don't know if you know
very
who,
early.
I don't know if you know who Jim Paluski is, but Jim Paluski has a permit to get horses on his property, and his horses live in better conditions than a lot of people live in. And I want Jim to move next door to me. I could have the horse and let somebody else take care of it, you know, and because I enjoy
They're a
looking
lot
at
of work.
horses. They're a lot of work. I found out there that like taking care of a 1,200-pound baby.
Yeah. Yep.
Never, it doesn't end.
No, and they live for. a long
Commend you for
time.
that too, because it's more than I want to do.
Okay,
Any
Mr.
other
Chairman.
questions?
Mr. Orovitz,
Ms.
has a question.
Yeah.
Ms. Clark,
Yeah.
I was not raised on a farm, so I don't have knowledge of this. How many acres are you setting aside for the horses?
There is, I think there's probably an acre parcel that is on for the actual outdoor turnout area for one section, and I think the other one's slightly less than that for the 3 horses now. So they would actually be 2 and 2 on that. So it's about total, I think, for the horses right now, probably acre and a half, something like
Acre and a
that.
half?
Yeah, 2
And
acres.
what is obviously they're a very large animal
Yeah,
and obviously take a lot of care. What is I guess I'm going to use the word loosely, recommended area per horse? I mean, obviously you wouldn't want a horse in a 80 by 40 area, you know, it wouldn't be enough room for it to exercise and live a healthy life. What is the recommended acreage per horse?
they don't have any
Oh,
recommended
okay.
acreage. No, you go out to other cities, they do have them in their backyard. Literally, there is no spec. Like, when you talk about pigs, you have to have so many acres, or cattle, you have to have so many
Right.
acres.
Correct.
Horses aren't that way because They just never had that standard on that I'm aware of, I should say.
Mr. Chair, just as a note, as another city boy, Mr. Orovitz, I'm another city kid, but familiar with, I have some good friends that keep some horses. That's actually a nice sized area that, to meet that need for this particular niche, just in my experience in going out to look at them.
Yeah.
In terms of the plan commissions and the heart of the question that you asked, why would we do this instead of the ag? Obviously, every one of these things is a balance test. What's the adjacent uses? How do we live, because we're never gonna have, we all want my neighbor to use their property the same way I want to use mine, but there's always an edge. In this case, this body approved an agricultural use, which was significantly more intense just a few weeks ago or 2 months ago. This is a little less impactful. It says, okay, it's an agricultural use, but it's just a group of up to 20 chickens and up to 4 horses. So it also is in recognition that some of those who didn't love the idea, that in its wisdom, the city council and the plan commission zoned land right next to it for a residential subdivision at some point in the past. So this kind of recognizes that kind of a less impactful agricultural use that we think will allow the applicant to achieve her objectives, to get a building and to keep some horses and some chickens, and allow the subdivision that was platted to have its existence as well. So we thought it was a win to go with this less intense use with an amended special use that went to 4. So we thought that was the win that I thought we could all achieve.
And it does constrain a future owner
That's correct.
within these confines.
That's
Not,
correct.
we know what your intent is as you stand here today, but the person that buys from you, we don't know what their intent would be. And so we can
So-
at least hold them to what deal you've made with.
So what we would need is someone to make a motion to amend the request to 4.
Just so that you know, Kelly, in
Yeah.
a special use, the special use continues with the property forever until the time that if you were it would not exist, you wouldn't have any horses on that for a period of 2 years, it would dissolve.
Is that what my prior one is already or not so much?
Your prior one's pretty interesting. In fact, it wouldn't even, today's standard even be applicable to do it that way. So, yes, it would be the same way there, any of the decisions that come up if they lose for a 2-year period. It's 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's 2 years for a special use. As far as a variance, which there is no time frame on a variance. So
So you still have that. So that it wouldn't, I guess it wouldn't, you didn't lose your variance.
No.
that's correct.
Now, what happens if Mr. Graham puts in his subdivision here and his dad has threatened that he would have the horses removed and fight me for the horses?
Well,
Yeah, but
Can you do that?
can't do that.
well,
Can't do that?
as far as what the city views as what you're allowed to use there, our position would be you're allowed to have the 4 in this case, if it's approved, you would allowed to have the 4 horses and 20 chickens as long as you continue that use and don't discontinue it for 2 years. Okay?
Mr. Chairman.
And
Mr. Orbis,
Ms. Clark, just for clarification, the application in front of us is stating 6 horses, and you said you prefer to go to 4?
Well, my understanding that somebody's not happy with the 6 either, so they recommended that I should do 4.
Okay. Because whatever we say and whatever we vote on, that is what will be binding.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
aware of that.
And obviously, the 20 chickens, and obviously, we're well aware of the city of Oregon does not allow roosters in with the.
I said it did not say that.
Oh,
If we wanted to put that in, you would have to incorporate that.
I was under the, I
yeah,
guess,
we've always
we've always,
stipulated that it's
Yeah,
not
but
a
it's
rooster.
not, it's
Oh,
not
okay.
stipulated.
Ah,
We
okay.
have done that when they're adjoining our 2 properties. We have put restrictions on, but, no, that is not.
thank you for that clarification.
Correct. And we have specifically put that clause in there yes
In,
or
in
no.
when,
Yeah.
when they came
Yes.
up
I
to R2.
I don't think you'd know the difference between John Myers' roosters across the street or if I had a rooster, because it's right there. I mean, you literally would not. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm out there and I hear them all. So, not that I want a rooster either. I mean, I've had them in the past and I'm just looking for eggs. Roosters don't give us eggs, so.
Yeah, there's different, I know I learned it, and I'm not a country guy. I didn't never have a chicken
Yeah,
in my
you don't
life.
have to have them
I ate
breed
chicken.
the hens to have eggs. They can still
But
have
some
eggs.
people believe that they're in a certain area, a hen is more productive if a rooster's present.
They-
Other people think it's a kind of a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
So there's different theories out
Yeah, yeah.
there. Not from roosters.
Any other questions?
Not at this time.
We were just
We
discussing whether.
may or
a
may
rooster
not come
has
back,
an
we
egg.
may or may not come back to you, but we're gonna let the rest
Okay.
of the audience speak if they want to speak.
Did you need me to sign this?
Please.
We know who you are.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Mr. Graham? Easy there.
I think every day.
You're not telling me anything I don't already know.
Oh, geez, I go to the gym every day.
Chairman Witkowski, Mayor Safarian, members of the Planning Commission and all. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bud Graham. I live at 5403 Bay Shore Road. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. Talk to you a little bit about the situation at hand. A couple things I'd like to, why they're fresh in my mind right now. The property itself still reverts to R2, it's R2 or R1, right? It will not, the zoning.
The underlying,
It's R1.
the
It'll
underlying
remain R1.
zoning will be R1.
Okay, it'll remain R1. And as far as the stipulation of the roosters, that's something that, when we get to that point, that we would like to have considered to make sure that there's no roosters. So I'd like to, first of all, we own the 13 acres adjacent to Mrs. Clark, or Miss Clark's property there on 6450 Corduroy Road. It is zoned R2. Of course, we're in opposition of the special use, to grant the special use based on the 6 horses and the 20 chickens. I just want to revert back for a few minutes just to clear up a few things. There was a meeting or a public hearing that was heard on the 21st of December. And I just want to make sure that you understand that it should not have been assumed that we, by us not showing up for the meeting, that we didn't have concerns with this. Because we do. There was miscommunication. Unfortunately, I didn't hear about it, but until the Friday before the council meeting. So regardless of whether or not we attend, I think there should be some loyalty and some protection when investors invest in the community, residential properties, whatever it might be. Because we're not here, that doesn't mean that we don't have a concern with it. Things can happen in the process of notification. If you're not, if you miss that or something happens, it would be nice if you hadn't heard from me in the future. Definitely, we are interested, and if you don't hear from us, we definitely are against something like this. For the record, we did oppose the A1. Spot zoning, of course, makes no sense, especially near an R2 district. We understand that, unfortunately, that situation, if it would have went through, could have resulted in unlimited livestock stabling, horses, cows, pigs, you name it. And that would have been a real big problem for our subdivision, the investment that we made. And with all due respect to Ms. Clark, I'm not saying that she would do this, but if it got in the wrong hands, like you stated earlier, it could have been devastating. Our phase 1 of Grand Village, we've completed all but 2 lots. The overall investment we've made in that, including the homes, is around a little bit approximately $10 million. The infrastructure houses storm sewers. The storm sewers are already in from our subdivision all the way to Corduroy Road. So that's an investment that we've made. I know there was some discussion that, we're moving around dirt and not doing much, but we have invested a lot of money into this property already and plan to continue the investment. 2 months ago, when the meeting took place, there were a few things that were discussed, and I just wanted to bring them up because it's changed drastically from where the questions that were asked back then. I'm reading from the minutes from that meeting from the 21st, and Mr. Horvitz asked the question if Ms. Clark planned to increase any number of horses on the property. She came forward and responded that she doesn't plan to add any more horses. And another question Mr. Olive asked, if she was going to have any additional or other animals on the property, and she responded, possibly chickens. So, we've gone from 3 horses to now 6, possibly chickens to now 20. So it is probably a good thing that we're at least here today addressing, the facts and the situation. So the question that I have is with respect to the horses. There's some things that come to mind. Just general concerns, she should be able to enjoy her horses. 18 years ago, when we agreed to let, to that proposal to allow her to, for the special use, we had no problem with the 3 horses. It's fine. But on the average, 1 horse generates 50 pounds of waste per day. An example, 6 horses would be 1 ton of manure per week, 52 tons a year. Currently, Mrs. Clark has 3 horses, so that's half of that. 3 ton, or it'd be a half a ton of manure, 26 tons per year. But my question is, how's it being disposed of now? That's a concern of mine. If we have residential development in that area, how is it going to be properly disposed of? And I think that's a genuine concern, especially when you're considering, it's her horse stabling is in the middle of it's surrounded by R1 districts. So it's a genuine concern. Does she spread it or is it hauled away? I don't know. I haven't paid any attention, but I would think these would be genuine concerns of the Plan Commission of how that's done. How is it being stored? Is it stored and covered? Is it covered? Prevents from rain from washing it away, causing it to leach into the ground or surface waters. How far is the manure pile away from the lot lines? What's the regulations? I have no idea what the regulations are, but these are all genuine concerns that I have. Like, for instance, Hamilton County and some research that I did, 500 feet away from neighboring residents. And her property is approximately, this is just approximately 330 feet wide by 1,335 feet deep. That's just approximate. So, my concern is that once we do develop this property, it could have a devastating effect on our investment. And with that in mind, I feel that a special use is, not necessarily, or adding anything to the special use would be a good idea. She has 3 horses now. 18 years ago, that's what we agreed to. And if that wasn't acceptable 18 years ago, why would it be acceptable now? Now, with that being said, I feel that, if she can answer some of the questions with respect to how that manure is disposed of, then maybe 4 horses is not a problem. 20 chickens? Just depends on where the chickens are located. you know, if you look at that area and you look at my diagram there, I mean, if they're over on the west side of her property, you know, maybe a problem, may not be. If they're up near the house, it's probably not a problem. We don't have a problem with 20 chickens. So, you know, I think if I understood specifically where some of these things might be located on that property or where the activity might take place, I don't think we'd have a problem with that. One of the things you had mentioned, there's the 1 acre, Ms. Clark mentioned that 1 acre where the horses were going to be, I don't know, where they operate them or move them or whatever. So where would that be? I mean, can somebody point that out to me or show me where that's going to be? Maybe she knows. Where the horse is going to be? You said there's 1 acre devoted to. Okay, but is it back behind the pond here? I haven't. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So it's over on the left side or the?
It's gonna be the farm.
Yeah.
Okay, the pond is very far next to that.
Okay. 3. How about the chickens? Where do you play with the chickens?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So my biggest concern, if you look at my diagram, it shows 11 lots on the east side of our property that would butt up to Ms. Clark's property. That's our concern. You know, it's one thing to invest in something like this, but then, you know, to have a good percentage, even of our second phase, as much as probably 15% of the lots, you know, being difficult to sell. I think you guys all asked several of you asked some very good questions during that meeting on the 21st. And you understood, you know, what my concerns would be. Because I watched the video and it you know, it was one of those things that you know, when you can't make a meeting like that, you always hope that the best interest of what your investment is looked out for. And so I think in this particular case, everything worked out well, and it's just a matter now of trying to determine, you know, the best to put enough restrictions on it or to make sure we're very specific on what we do. And I think with that being said, you know, I think we can work this out. Do you have any questions for me? Do any, I mean,
No, I have no questions at this time myself.
okay.
I don't. Mayor? Mr. Briesler? I think we're very familiar with this area and, you know, we've been here before on the corner lot, which is right out on Corduroy in what would be Lawnview.
Could you point to that one? What one you talking?
That would be
Is that on the north side of Corduroy Road?
it would be on the immediate west of her property, right out on Corduroy Road. We did have a matter before us, which I believe your dad came and we ended up working that out as well with his driveway and he wanted to put a barn in.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and so you know, we're very familiar with all of this. In fact, I'm probably most familiar with this whole project because I was involved in the litigation to get it started, you know, 20 years ago. So I'm all in favor of that. We obviously want to make everyone, you know, satisfied with what's going on.
Sure.
There's the argument that, you know, she was there first. Let's allow her to do what she wants with her land. And we're trying to balance everything out as best we can. And we think we've reached a consensus, which would be the 4 horses and the 20 chickens. And obviously she's aware of the surroundings and if you can build up the way it is. And in fact, where I live, my backyard opens up to an open field like this. And it's a 4-acre parcel that's behind me and it opens up. And it's the greatest thing to see in the morning is the open field. And so, and I'm in a subdivision and,
Yeah.
you know, so I look at it and think somebody's gonna look out their back window every morning and they're gonna see an open field and that's kind of nice.
So the, just because she was there first, though, I mean, the investments that people make in residential developments.
I'm just saying,
And I
somebody will
think that's
make
what-
that argument.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's that's another argument to make. We certainly want to protect your investment. We want to protect the happiness of everyone involved. You know, that's but her investment as well, you know, we're thinking about. She does own her own property and, you know, we're homeowners too. And, you know, we all bring our own experiences with us here and we're trying to do the best we can.
I understand. And that's where I
And-
revert back to what I said earlier about, you know, we agreed with her 18 years ago.
Mhm.
We said, you know, she should be able to enjoy her horses. Had no problem with that. And I'm not sure my dad, whatever she said, I don't, I'm here representing my dad and also our company.
Okay.
So
Great.
It is what it is.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Ms. Clark, you get, yeah, obviously you get an opportunity.
Well, to start with, they did not own the property when I moved in there. To start with, back in 1990 is when I got my variance to have the 3 horses, so you guys were even around, okay, at that time. So there was no allowing me. 18 years ago, when I applied for agricultural at that time, and that's when your father did not like that. So, and it's been 18 years, I figured I'd come forward and I try again since there wasn't much activity. Now, as far as the manure goes, I have had it hauled away. If people come and get it, if they want to use it, they can. Other times I put it on the field and the farmer that farms the field tills it in. As well as the Myers come and take it and they put it on their field. There's a specific time of year that you can do that. Now, a couple things. When somebody moves onto a property and they see the horses there already, they know what they're getting into. It's called country living. That's what your sign says. So country living says you're moving in amongst a bunch of farms or people that possibly have animals. I'm very organized when it comes to the barn. I haul the manure away or I pay somebody to come and get it if we don't move it out there. So I don't believe there's any restrictions right now how the manure is stored. I know that when it comes to cattle, big cattle farms, they have EPA comes in and they set up a standard that you got to have a concrete slab in that. For horses right now, there's nothing. So, but we do dispose of it. Come summertime, you won't see it sitting around. We also clean out the turnout area where the horses are, so then none of that is sitting around. I bring in new sand, so none of that is, no water's pulling up there, so you don't get any odor. I try to keep it as clean as possible. But I do plan on putting a fence the length of the property, at least where the horses are, so people don't want to come over to my property and get in with the horses. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, just where the length of the property to where it was the fence.
I'm planning on fence or trees is gonna be the length of where, I showed you where the pastures were, where the where the pastures are. At least so we don't have people getting in there for safety reasons. So, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Horowitz?
Ms. Clark, are there any state or county restrictions on the chicken manure removal and or anything of that nature?
No, there is none. And those chickens aren't gonna produce that much odor. And I clean all that too. So usually I just put it in with the manure and it's tilled into the ground as well. It's no different than them taking the manure and spraying it on there a couple times a year and gigs everybody out, so.
Right, you were mentioning that there was no restrictions on the storage or
Yeah.
disposal of the horse. I was just asking about the chicken.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, and 20 chickens aren't
No.
I mean, that's barely anything. So, and they'll be fenced in, they're not gonna be free roaming or anything like that. I don't have any roosters. I've had those things before and they're pretty nasty.
It's up to you guys. Whoever's gonna
So
make
you
that
said
motion.
you would you agree that we could list no roosters then in this this, application?
Do I have to agree to that?
No, it's a question.
I mean, see, the problem is you don't know what you're getting. So you order or you go into TSC, they're not sexed. So they could be, I mean, not that I'm gonna let the little things run around or have them, but they don't sex those. So you don't know if you're getting males or females. My intentions to order is all hens. You know, so if I can get all hens, that's what I prefer. I don't prefer any roosters.
Okay.
Any other questions?
None for me.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I don't have a
Feast.
question. I guess I just want to at least give some perspective as to where I stood in the last. I mean, I can see the frustration. So my thing is, I always try to see a balance between the two interests, and then obviously the surrounding areas. I did get calls from councilmen after, and they wanted to know my perspective and why I voted for it. Respectfully, real estate wise, I bet $100 your outside lots sell first. And I do think that, I mean, it's a fact. More people prefer to see agricultural. Of course, not a hog farm. I mean, obviously the extremes are everybody's example to prove a point. I didn't get the feeling that that was her interest. I did say, if it was on the record, I think it was, I did say my concern was the next owner. But I did consider your guys' development. I really did. And I think you'll find those outside lots, whether she gets the additional horse or doesn't, will sell first. Because I do understand, obviously I looked at your subdivision. I understood that there was another plat. I didn't know there was sewers there, but I mean, that's obviously a tremendous cost. You're gonna have to put in city roads and, I mean, I get it. I just wanted you to know I did consider all that. But I also am trying to consider what she's trying to accomplish too. And it's difficult to perfectly please both sides. I mean, they say a good deal, most people don't love it. That's just, so I just wanted to speak on, at least on my behalf. I did try to. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Graham?
Yeah. Once again, I don't have a problem with Ms. Clark and what she's doing right now. Don't have a problem with the roosters. I prefer not, okay? I mean, I don't prefer, I mean, if we can somehow stipulate that there's no roosters, that would be a little helpful. So, thank you.
Okay. I believe the floor is open for a motion on this one. It would
You want
probably
to,
be-
you want to close the
Oh.
public hearing first?
Is that a motion?
I think
I
that's
move
a
to close the
request.
public hearing. Well, you can, you know what, just so that you know that.
I can
I
do it.
wanted, you can just do that and say if they're an objection.
I like some active involvement from. Yes. Yes. We have not taken a vote on that yet.
Where do I sign in?
Right on that sheet, or you could just identify yourself and state your name and address.
Is that thievery
That's
of
nice.
city property?
That's a power move.
Where are the police?
Mr. Chairman, my
Say your
is-
name.
I'm Dave Andrus. I live on 6160 Corduroy Road. I live a little bit further to the west. I'm actually here on another matter, but I just found out that I'm neighbors to everybody here. I know Noel Graham before. In fact, Noel Graham, I'm on the Board of Zoning Appeals, was the only person who ever came up and thanked people like you who come in and sacrifice and have to leave work early to come here and serve the community. So I'd like to, Noel was the only one who ever thanked us when we had our zoning.
thrilled that you think I'm Noel. He's one of my heroes in life.
Oh, well, the Grahams.
okay, and I appreciate this.
Well, there was a matter that involved the Grahams, and I think it did go your way. I don't know whether they thanked us. Well, I'm sorry. but-
That's a great compliment.
All right, I will say that I've never met the applicant, but I have had the opportunity living there for 20 years. I've jogged and property, and it's a beautiful property from the road. I've seen it, and looking at the aerial image, it's very beautiful also. I think it'd also be a plus for anybody who would buy anything in redevelopment. People don't want to buy a lot backing up to another subdivision. It's a real plus. And I am a gardener. If you ever have any manure to get rid of, I'd be more than happy to take it.
Music to her ears.
And I do wake up in the morning hearing roosters. I live over on Corduroy Road, about 700 feet to the west. I don't know where they're coming from. Sometimes the coyotes take care of them, but I do hear roosters in the morning. And it is kind of a nice country thing to wake up to, because we are in the country. So, I mean, you're going to get farming activities. You're going to see a harvester coming down your driveway at 4 a.m. in the fall and not think anything of it. It's all part of the flavor of the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So just a little comment from somebody who does live in the area, and I have dealt with the Grants before, and I had seen your property before, but I never met you. I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in there.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And the chair will close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed. Public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Mayor?
all right,
I'm sorry.
I would make an amendment. I would like to make an amendment that we change the number of horses from 6 to 4.
As per the applicant, correct?
Yes.
And do you want to include chickens or,
Chicken's already in there.
Yeah, that's it.
and chickens, and as is with the chickens?
That's fine.
Is that a
Fine with
motion?
that. It is.
Second? I will second.
So we would first vote on that amendment.
Correct. On the amendment,
Was it Mr. Orbitz that seconded?
I
No,
did.
Winkowski.
Okay. Give me a second here. Okay. Mayor Safarian?
Yes.
Chairman Winkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Vrieslar?
Yes.
Mr. Orbitz?
Yes.
The amendment now would read the resolution to be
Exactly the same.
an application for 4 horses and 20 chickens as a SUE, presented as an SUE. Floor will accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept SUE -174-22 as amended.
Second.
Roll, please.
Mr. Orbitz?
Yes.
Mayor Safarian?
Yes.
Mr. Vrieslar?
Yes.
Chairman Winkowski?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Graham.
everybody.
Thank you for your involvement. Thank you, Mr. Andrus. Andrus? Andrus or Andrews?
And
Okay.
Russ,
Got it.
she's waiting for you to come and pick up some manure.
We got one more.
Oh, yep, don't go nowhere. The party is not over.
Number ST 1548-22, split transfer for a variance on width to depth ratio in an R1 low density residential zone district on the property described as parcel number 44-39077. The location is 6140 Corduroy Road. The applicant is Taylor Dittman for owner Craig Dittman. Mr. Gilmore.
Yes, Tina, could you go to the next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Slide, so we could take a look at this. Specifically, that one, oh, go
Oh.
right back. Oh,
That one?
no, the one more. No, go back.
All right, hold on.
I want the survey,
Okay, so we should be getting close here.
there it is.
Oh,
That one
right there.
back. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Single it out here.
So I'm sure the representative for the applicant can explain it better than I. But what we're doing is we're splitting off a portion from the residents on the right and adding it to the next door neighbor, which creates a width to depth ratio zoning problem, or it needs a variance. So good, Tina, could you go back to the overhead then, so we could see the lots, how they sit now?
Actually, the overhead of the property
Yeah,
there.
no, is there the Aries? There,
There we go.
okay. So see how that lot, the lot is shaped in today? They're taking that portion, and splitting that in half and giving it to that house that sits up there, okay? Up to the north. You understand?
So
that?
will it be two equal rectangles?
2 4-acre pieces.
Yes, it'll be
Okay,
two.
so two equal, so you're taking what would be the east line next to the house, right? The
Yes.
one right down the middle, and that one's just being
Continuing it all the way
extended.
down.
That one's being extended all the way to the back property line.
Right.
So we're creating two equal, so we're creating two,
Instead of one bigger,
but we're creating two non-conforming parcels,
right,
correct?
instead of one.
Instead of one.
Right.
Gotcha.
But as you go up and down the road, there's several of these that exist.
I just wanted to be clear.
It was hard for me to explain.
Well, just clarification, the applicant is Taylor Dittman.
Yep.
She just tested positive for COVID. She
Gotcha.
couldn't be here. I was coming as the adjoining landowner to say I don't have a problem with it, and she called me and asked me if I could both serve as
Proxy.
her proxy and the landowner to the east who is most impacted by it.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with it.
Where is your home in relationship?
Immediately to the east.
So that would be the one with the
Circular drive,
track,
yes.
circular drive in it? Okay. Your house sets back
Yes,
from Corduroy quite a bit then? Okay.
yes,
Just so I know who is speaking for what properties.
yes. And I do hear chickens in the morning there.
I live in town and I hear a rooster in the morning, so, you know,
I'm a train man. I hear the trains.
I block them out. Okay,
I hear
Well,
booms from the refinery.
Yeah.
Now you know real estate, there's many factors.
yes. Okay, thank you for that
right.
clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm open. The chair will close the public hearing. seeing as
You don't
there's
even have to.
No one here.
You can do it on.
I
your-
will make a motion to pass ST 1548-22 as written.
You might as well second it too.
No, I get to second it. Quit stepping on my power, damn. I second it, Tina.
Roll, please.
Chairman Winkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Orvitz,
Yes.
Mayor Safarian.
Yes.
Mr. Breezler.
Yes.
Hearing no opposition, the meeting is closed.
Why did we vote 9 first?
I was thinking that, but
Hmm?
I'm not the chair.
We just voted on that. Yeah.
Yours,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, he's the neighbor.
we weren't charging you for the other entertainment.
You know what? There have been times we've talked about me having the discretion to do that. And you can't believe how much the other people who are here for the one that's first complain. It's crazy.
We've done it.
Oh,
They never do that for the VC.